All right, Sarah, so the real ones know that you were a DePaul basketball legend, a star.
You're being
A
kind.
3-point, that was your specialty. So I do like to ask my guests who are way more athletic than I ever was. Okay, Sarah Kustok, DePaul basketball player. Give me NBA comp. Give me like who in the NBA, any era, was
Ooh,
like the Sarah Kustok of their game. Who had your game?
that's an excellent question. Oh man, now you're really stumping me. And I also don't want to insult any NBA player. I'm like, I need to pick someone
People get
who's a friend of mine that won't be insulted that I'm complimenting their game.
people say that sometimes they get nervous and they don't want to.
I'm trying to, well, because I like to think that so much of my game, we talk about the 3-point shot, was predicated on defense. Like Doug Bruno played
Yeah.
me all the time because I defended multiple positions. We played actually a very nuanced style of like how you see the NBA playing a lot. Space, pace, a lot of 3-point shots. Oh, can we put a pin in this one and let
We'll come back to this.
I
Yeah.
now I mean I could sit here and think about this for a long time, but maybe almost maybe I'll toss I'm gonna think about this more. Like Danny Green is coming to mind for me.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I'll get you back to that one. I like that.
Yeah.
Man, Kevin,
I
you're
coulda-
coming in hot with these good questions.
I probably should have given that to you as homework, giving you some time
No,
to research.
no.
And knowing you would have grinded the tape on it.
I
You
know.
would have
I'm
given
like,
me
hold on a second. Let me dig through all the highlights.
So when did you first have the thought of going into broadcasting?
Ooh, late. It's funny when, Kevin, I'm sure you experience this when you talk to so many aspiring, whether it's journalists, broadcasters, you name it, and those in all sorts of professions, they know from the start, or it's their passion, it's their dream. This is my dream job. Broadcasting was as far off the spectrum as you could imagine for me. I was big into numbers when I went to college. I thought I was going to get into business, accounting, finance. And I ended up switching into communications. But a greater part of that was I ultimately got my master's in corporate and multicultural communication. So I love to speak, to read, to research, to write. A huge part of my love was writing. And I was finishing in my 5th year grad school. I was working at DePaul, or finishing my scholarship in our sports and information department. And I was fortunate enough to do it was with ESPN. It certainly wasn't an internship, but I was a production runner regularly for their Big Ten noon football game. Because as we know, being in Chicago, you can easily get to a lot of those spots. And it was a Wisconsin-Michigan game. It was the first time I sat in a truck and fully understood. Played in so many games. You're watching games on TV. The magic happens and you don't think about everything behind it. Sat in the truck. And it blew my mind, the combination of what I searched for and yearned for and what I loved about being an athlete and being in sports. It was the live nature of ball goes up, kickoff, you're going to fail, you're going to succeed, you're going to have wins, you're going to have losses. But it's ultimately the preparation that you put in and that adrenaline rush. I felt that in the truck. I'm watching the producer, the director, thinking about the broadcasters, the on-air talent. And it was so much just thinking on your feet. And for me, continuing to be a part of that and then having played, getting opportunities in the Chicago area, whether it was some high school games or college games, just dipping my toe in it and feeling a rush of this is everything that I want. It's something I'm passionate about, being sports. It's super challenging to me. I don't know if I'll ever be able to be good at this, but I want to see how this could play out. And so it's kind of one thing that led to another. But yeah, I was in my 5th year of grad school. I was 22, 23 years old. And I was like, oh, this could be interesting to kind of roll the dice and try. And fortunately, there was probably a million times. So I thought about veering off and going back into another career path. But it was one foot in front of the other. And it was something that always just tugged at my heart of something I love to do.
Do you remember your first time on air?
Yes. It was, I don't know if this was technically my first time on air, but it was close to it. It was with David Kaplan, the great Chicago legend, David Kaplan. It was for some regional of Fox Sports, but it was a college basketball game. It was a DePaul women's game and a South Florida. DePaul was hosting South Florida. And however it worked out, they knew I was maybe interested in getting into TV, or I was, doing the production work. And Jeannie Lenti Ponsetto was in charge of kind of trying to facilitate who the talent may be. And so she asked me if I thought I could do it and what this may look like. And just talking with Cap, and Cap, he's like, hey, we're just going to be two friends just sitting here talking about a basketball game. It was amazing. I loved it. I was nervous as could be. I hope that film is like burned and can never see the light of day, because I remember watching it back and cringing and thinking that this is terrible. And I definitely need to go back to the other professions I thought I was going to get into. But again, it was something that was so fun to me, because for better or worse, I never even wrapped my head around that being an opportunity, or broadcasting, what that looked like. It was never in my sight line of going to college and getting my degree and what the next step would be like after I finished playing basketball. But I was terrible. Terrible is probably being generous. It was hard to listen to, but it's something that I think that's the beauty of it, of kind of knowing those steps. And many broadcasts after that were very raw and took some time.
What was terrible about it?
I think I didn't know the rhythms of when to talk,
Mhm.
when not to talk. What I enjoy most about live games or calling games is that almost that dance you're doing with your partner, making it, getting in, getting out, saying what you see in an articulate, efficient, concise way. That's what makes it challenging. And I think to a listener's ear, you may not always know when someone's doing things in somewhat of the technically sound way that we try to do it, but when they're not doing it. And I just remember there was certain stretches that I was rambling on. I'm like, Sarah, get to the point. What are you trying to say? I remember looking back and being like, how did you miss that this is the critical part of the play and you're talking about something else? I think getting into stories of making sure that you're doing credence to also the background, but just not, time and score and place. I think you learn all those things about the entertainment part, the insight part, informative part. When are you analyzing and breaking things down? When do you have room to give a little bit more color to what's happening in the game? When are you not stepping on the toes of your play-by-play partner so they can actually call the big plays of the game? So it's all those little things. And I think we're always our toughest critics. But yeah, it was Kevin again. Don't go. I know you've been doing a lot of research. That is one that please leave it to the side.
Knowing Cap, he probably has like a photographic memory and can tell me everything
He
about that
probably
game.
could. He probably could. I love him for it, because as you know, and I think about this through so many people through the course of my career, we all do. We have people that just they have a level of warmth and encouragement and support and belief in you through all the steps, even like when you're in it, but also after it. That it's like all those pieces that build a foundation of who you are. I would never be there. The list is endless of those people who give you just the right amount of, whether it's a critique or a suggestion, or again, like no, that wasn't great, but next time, like, you're gonna be better. And I'm so appreciative of it, and he is certainly one of those.
So in 2008, just kind of scrolling through newspapers.com, finding little clips of Sarah Kustok. Here's all the different things I saw that you did there. You were like a host of a football tailgate. You did sidelines for Chicago Fire
Yeah.
soccer. I think I had you. You did women's basketball conference tournaments. I had you doing high
Chicago
school
Shamrocks. Did you get the indoor lacrosse league?
I got lacrosse. I wasn't sure if I got Shamrocks, but I got lacrosse in there. I got high school football, a spring game sidelines for
Yes.
college football.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm missing something, but like, what was that? Because we're going to get into Comcast SportsNet, because you got hired there. At least the story I saw was Christmas 2008 was when it was announced. What was that year, 2008, like for you, just doing all those different things?
Amazing, brutal, um, a blessing, and also like the most stressful time of my life, of every day being like, what on earth are you gonna do? Can I pay my bills? Can I find a way to piece things together to make it work? And I both love and hate, though, when I'll be talking to individuals, and again, especially like young aspiring broadcasters that want to know, well, what was your story? What was the start like? It is absolute chaos. When I tell you, it was like my personal, people ask, I'm like, I'm fortunate and blessed and so grateful for what I do. But the sacrifices that you make along the way, and especially early on, of just every weekend, having to drop anything and everything when an opportunity arose. And it was a time that I feel like I tried to piece together anything I could, to hopefully get it to be in a line, and it was the most jagged path. You mentioned some of those things, and yes, it was, whether it was lacrosse or soccer or football or high school or pros or college, it was all those things. But it was also, I think, within the context of that year, doing the high school football and basketball. There were some state championships. The local Fox affiliate, Fox 32 WFLD, called, and it was the news director that randomly saw me on one of these high school interviewing people in the stands, let's say some kids in the stands, and had an idea of, at the time, it was, you probably wouldn't remember, but it was called live news cams. And it was all the chopper cams from every Fox affiliate in the country on the web, with a little webcam all in one place, so people can go online and just sit and watch what's happening in Memphis, Tennessee, or Fargo, North Dakota, like you name it. And I would sit there and I'd arrive at 5 a.m. and I'd be there till probably, I don't know, 3, 4 p.m. So again, and I maybe had a quick bathroom, but we just click on the cameras and, oh, there's a car chase and there's a burglary and there's and just talk. Like, it was just talking. And it was the wildest thing I ever did, because I'll never remember. You know Chicago, and I'm making this too long, but like I was taking the L from where I lived in Lincoln Park to get downtown, and it's the January and it's freezing and you're waiting, but middle of the morning you get there, locked in. The people you're thankful for, that crew, when they were done with their morning news show, allowed me to come in and sit and just practice and do a sports read. So pretend I was a sports anchor, trying to think who, I think Mike Pars at the time was a sports anchor. So whatever his read was, maybe it was Corey McFerrin, like, just read their thing and we're going to go through it and you're just going to practice. And they stayed after, like, I appreciate it. They stayed after their shift, but they let me be as if I was the sports anchor. And we did that every day. They were so kind to do that. And then eventually they were like, you know what? We actually need someone to fill in on the weekend. Can you fill in for the Sunday night sports? Can you fill in for the Friday night? And I think my whole career is a big combination of, we've seen you do this. Can you fill in and do this? And it goes okay. And then one opportunity leads to another. And that ultimately was the biggest part of that. And then with Comcast SportsNet, I know we'll get into, it was the same situation of, they had the high school lights show. And so they just hired me as a freelancer to go out once a week to, interview the spotlight player and do a feature story for the show that they had. That went okay. And they said, maybe we may have you do that for a Bulls game, or maybe we'll do that for a Bears segment. The same thing with other stations. And finally, one way, shape, or form, it led to something more stable.
I will say, reading through all those 2008 things, I couldn't imagine what your W-2s were like that year.
A mess, an
Yeah.
absolute mess. I can't tell you too how many friends that I canceled on weddings and
Yeah.
every weekend thing or something. But it was all part of the journey. And I think every time I was like, maybe this isn't for me, something would pop up and I'd be like, oh, but I do love this. Okay, give it another month, give it another 2 months, and yeah, and here we are.
What did it mean when you got that full-time job at Comcast SportsNet?
I can't ever, even to this point in life, and I would have to, I don't want to overstate it. It was one of the truest forms of excitement and appreciation, and just being really, really grateful for sticking out, all these things we've talked about, to get to a point that felt like some level of stability. And I think in all things in life, we know that you get uncomfortable being uncomfortable, or uncomfortable with the uncertainty, or taking risks. Sometimes the reward outweighs the risk, and so you keep going with it. And that was a moment in time that I didn't know if that would ever happen, and I didn't know if I would ever reach that point. And it triggered a I'm doing something that I love with my whole heart in a place that's my roots and my home, the teams that I grew up cheering for, surrounded by people that either had covered me growing up or I known, I've idolized, I've watched. It felt like a family and felt like a home. So one, to that point of just being overwhelmed with, wow, I'm so excited and grateful, but also you better make the most of this and take on the responsibility to kind of be like this is not going to be something that you then this is just one part of the ladder of making sure that every single day you are as prepared as possible, you work as hard as possible, you continue to get better. I felt like I was grateful for the opportunity, but I knew that I was not at the place I needed to be. I knew that how raw I still was, how much work I was willing to put in, but that work was required to actually meet those standards of what Comcast SportsNet was, what the colleagues were that I was around, who I was working with, the chance that they were taking on me because I was young at the time and didn't have a ton of experience. Um, so yeah, it was just a really amazing, but also like heavy mix of feelings of what it meant, where I was at, but also that I didn't want that to be the last stop of being at this point. I wanted to make sure everything I poured into was the love that I had for that city, for those teams, for everything and everyone that I was around.
Do you think you can rattle off everything you did at Comcast Sports-Net, like every different
Probably if we
show?
sat here, do we have time? Well, because I think, it obviously started with doing and people ask me about that too. So you have, like I think about the amazing moments. A lot of people look back to, of course, the Blackhawks and winning the Stanley Cup and following that team. And so being able to be a ringside reporter, do the live hits, the post game show. Like when I go back now and calling Nets games, and I have colleagues that are coming from Brooklyn or New York. They're like, man, everything United Center. I was like, I essentially lived here. Like for every Bulls, I was here. I felt like I was one of the last ones out. We were doing our live show and our post game hit and post game package, and so I was out of here at midnight. I was here for all of those games, but I think that's what stands out. But I even think about like the opportunity for as much as I covered the White Sox or the Cubs, but Mark Purley's perfect game, Jay Cutler, I happened to be assigned to the Bears that day to cover practice when he was first introduced and having a first sits down. So his press conference, and again, there's just a lot of moments, and whether it's with sitting down with Joakim Noah after, the just certain moments of playoffs, but Kendall Gill and the Mind and Body series we did. And yeah, there was just a beer money. Like I can go on and on about it. And we did the most creative shows. And I always say that I would never be what I am, who I am, both professionally and personally without that experience and without those people. Because one, on the professional side, I was able to host in the studio, whether it was, our Sportsnet shows, whether it was pre and post shows, long form interviews, the quick hit on court or on field, ringside interviews, putting together packages, all aspects of television. I feel like in some capacity, I was able to taste and touch and learn. And then I had amazing people like Luke Stuckmeyer and Mark Schanowski and Pat Boyle. And again, the list goes on that would sit there. I'll never forget Luke would sit there. We'd be doing shows together and he'd come through. He's like, I'm going through your scripts. This is so long. And you let this is the most important thing. You lead with this and then come in with this and this needs to be tighter. And look at this sentence. Can you say, is that how you would say it in real life? Talk like you would talk. Don't talk like you would write a paper. And I still to this day now, I'll tell them, those are the moments I had people that gave me honest, real feedback. And it allowed me to improve and allowed me to get better. And I think that's what I relish. I'm like, those are the real relationships and those are the real reasons you get better, because you have people that care enough to not just be like, okay, I'm going to sit next to you and be a colleague and we're going to do this show and create chemistry. It's like, no, I'm going to actually be your friend and I'm going to push you to be the best you can be. And I'm going to bring the things that I know through my experience to you. And for me, that's all a give back. So every time I go back there, and even now I'll go back and see Kendall, or I'll go back, we'll do these shows or we'll do different things. I'm like, man, it feels like it's been forever, but it's also like it's no time, because I feel like every part of who I am is still that girl that came in yeah, please, help me to be better at this career, because I care most about that. And yeah, I value all of that so much.
I ask every guest about their welcome to the big leagues moment. And you had so many different roles. I mean, it could be something from when you started as an analyst on the Nets. It could be something when you got to Yes. It could be Comcast. Like when you think about, I mean, shoot, just the players you listed just now that you got to talk to. If you think of like, and people have taken this positive or negative, but like, did you have just like that? Oh, I'm here. This is the real deal. Like a
Oh, I thought
moment
you
that
were gonna
sticks
say
out.
like a welcome, like, oh girl. I was gonna say
It,
when like
it could
when
be.
my shorts ripped in the White Sox clubhouse after something, and I think I don't know if it was like AJ or Gordon Beckham or Paul like shoved me into their locker, and Ozzy brought me some shorts, and like I was just like, oh my goodness, this is happening. Like, thank you to people who now feel like my brothers, and um no, I think it's those moments though where I had mentioned Mark Burley's perfect game and getting him right off the field, or the parade with the Blackhawks and being on one of the buses with the cup and Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves. Whether it was Derrick Rose, and like I think about that his rookie year, like that, I people still ask me. I've been fortunate enough to cover so many amazing NBA playoff series. I'm like, that first round series with the Bulls and the Celtics, Derrick Rose's rookie year, Ben Gordon going off, like that team. I think there was, I don't know, 5 total overtimes and in the 7-game series that was unreal. Um, in watching that, experiencing that, and doing that in the first year that I was part of this group and in covering the team and just getting my feet wet in television, those were the times where and it was not perfect and it didn't go as I had planned. Or I'd watch back and be like, man, you should have said this, should have. But it was so much. It was the thinking on your feet and the quickness of it, and you know this how much in this business, like you need to be 10 toes down, ready to go. Like you don't have time to wait. You need to know what to say, how to say it, being able to be adaptable and versatile. And I think the one thing that I always gather when people ask about, did you always want to be a pro? No, like I didn't know till very late, but every characteristic that in many ways I embodied as an athlete or needed to be as a player, needed to be in the context of sport, that discipline, that commitment, the understanding of trying to stay level in really high pressure, high leverage moments. That's the stuff that I think always kind of transferred. Um, and I loved, and I do think in some ways, like the comfort of knowing it's not always going to be perfect, and you're going to have really bad moments, or you're going to wake up and someone may, trash you on the radio and be like, why is she on TV? And it's true, like that's having thick skin in this business. And that's one thing I learned very early on, and was probably told by a lot of very smart people. It's like this is something you love, and this is your profession, and you're gonna pour yourself into it, but it's not who you are. And so at the end of the day, I'm like, you may think I'm terrible at what I do, but I hope you think that I treated people well, or that I treated people well that I worked with or was around, or the environment I was in. I'm like, that's what I care about at the end of the day. And if I take care of that, like I can control that. Sometimes I may not be able to control, like what comes out of my mouth may not be what I was actually thinking, how I say things, fumbling your words, how you see the game, what you want to do. But I'm like, that I know. And so that's where I always keep at the forefront when you're going along. And so that's why at some point, I don't know what moment it was, because I know I just listed off 100, but it was like, okay, like you're going to be all right. And you know what? Maybe, I don't know, like maybe you won't. Maybe this is not going to be the path, but you're going to figure out a way, and just making sure that you relish every moment. And I was like, as long as I'm as prepared as possible, I may mess up. But if I put in the work to be in position that I feel comfortable with, then I can go to sleep at night and be like, okay, this is the way things panned out, and tomorrow hopefully it'll be better.
At what point throughout all the different things you're doing sideline reporting, obviously your first job when you moved to Yes. Let me rephrase it. When you left us here in Chicago, you left us for New York.
Heartbreak.
Um, you go to Yes. You got the sideline reporter. You're hosting studio shows. You're doing all these different things. But you talked about your first time on air. You were an analyst. Like how much or how did you kind of know that that was maybe the goal? Like that was something you really wanted to pursue?
That's such an excellent, amazing question, because that was the first thing I did. That was my first taste of television. And that's what I loved. And we talk about things that there's no part of this industry and job that I don't enjoy. And I'm like, I like it, like I enjoy it. But that's at the core of what I care about most. That to me is the purest form of like coming in sport and trying to help explain what you see in the game as it's going on and as it's live. And so as time went on, and we had talked about it, it was just piecing one job together to create a career or to get a to be able to pay my bills or just to continue to build what you're doing. And I enjoyed the opportunity to try new things. And I always have felt like refining different aspects, even being in the like understanding the way the big picture works will help you to be better at whatever your role is, and just being the best you can in your role, but understanding what others are doing. So as time went on, there was so many things that I enjoyed. And I think my love in many ways was always the NBA. Love covering so many of the other leagues and sports. But the NBA had my heart from the time I was a little child. You don't grow up a Chicago kid and not like love the NBA given what we experienced. And I think by the time I got to Brooklyn and got to Yes and was entrenched in the NBA, and that was the first time and even now I'll still do some NFL and WNBA, and obviously that's a component of the basketball side, but I was very, very entrenched in the NBA and I loved it. And I don't think, and I still at the time was calling some WNBA games and some women's college basketball games, some men's college basketball games, but I didn't think that it was possible. What I'm doing now, Doris Burke was doing it. She felt 101, a rarity, amazing at what she does. And Myers Drysdale had done some, but it never even processed in my mind that what I'm doing now would be an opportunity, which is why I love it so much. And so backtrack us to actually more than that, when I got my first opportunity, and this circles back to me saying like most of the things I was fortunate enough to do were we need you to fill in. Like we're in a tough spot and we think you can service us for this point. And all of the analysts for Net, it was a Brooklyn Nets at Philadelphia 76ers game. Ian Eagle was doing play-by-play. Still my partner, the best of the best. And all of our analysts, it was in March, had other obligations. So whether it was the NCAA tournament or some other NBA work, and my bosses, I think, understood my basketball acumen, hopefully, and how I prepped and the work I did and how I prepped for games in many ways was about that, of understanding not just the storylines, but the style of play, everything that goes along with it. And so John Filippelli was, getting me a call, and Frank DeGrace, who was our producer, and they're like, do you think you would be able to do this? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. It sounds amazing. Get off the phone. I was like, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll be able to do it. But it was very, very new. And it seems wild to me now, like for how much we see, which I love, women in different places and spaces and calling game. Like now it's a regularity. And I love the fact that so many kids and people of this generation don't even think twice about that. But at the time, I'll never forget. I was truly Kevin calling what I was calling that one singular game. That's all it was. I was doing interviews for New York papers, for NBA TV before the game. Like it was such a big deal to even be a female calling one game. And twofold on that, when I did it, it's sitting with Ian, and I say this, he's the best in the business to me for so many reasons, but it's because it really did. It felt like I was sitting next to my friend, just calling this game, doing our thing, breaking everything down. I knew the teams inside out. I obviously did my prep, and had been calling games, but it was the most fun I had had in a work setting in as long as I could remember. I'm like, this was absolutely extraordinary. I want to soak this up. I want to relive this. I want this moment to never, ever end. But I thought that was it. I was like, okay, cool. Like now I'll go back and which I appreciated, but doing my sideline role, but I didn't think it would build to something more. And one thing led to another, went okay. Hey, we're going to give you a couple more games. And as the story progresses, then a few years later, I was able to take on the role that I have now. But until that moment, Kevin, it didn't even like trigger in my mind that could be a real thing. And then once I tasted it again, and once I felt it, and once I was like, oh, I'm combining the two things that I love most, I'm like, I never want to go back. Like this is it. How can I find a way to then make this a part of what I'm able to do? And again, I do not take it for granted. I do not, even to this, no matter how long I do it, no matter what the game is, like when people are like, oh, this isn't going to be a great game or a late game or whatever, I'm like, There is not a second that I get to sit in that seat with a headset on, watching a game, talking about a game, and knowing that it is what we call the work I do. I do not take that for granted.
Okay, so let's do the through line here. Sarah Kustok, 2008, the things you're learning from Fox 32, the things you're figuring out, the things you're learning at Comcast SportsNet, you're from Luke Stuckmeyer, you're asking those questions, to today. Like, what is that connection in terms of like what you learned then that still matters to now to do what you're able to do at the level you're able to do it?
I would say in the most technical way, TV, you don't get a lot of time. Be concise. And whether it was how you're asking a interview question, no one cares about you. Like, they care about the subject. So get to the point and construct it in the most concise way to get the best answer. When I'm running a script on air to lead to like, use your words very efficiently to get the point across of what you're trying to say. I think it's the same with my in-game analysis. And I think at those moments to now, it's the balance of this is also sports and it's fun. So try and inform or teach in a way that makes you unique of what you see and how you see it and the experience that you have. But also be entertained, like be yourself, and find a way to take that balance. And again, it was with interviews, it was with studio hosting, it was with calling games, you name, like all of that. You need to have both those components to continue to engage audiences. And then finally, like the most important thing, and I learned this many times, whether it was 2008, 2009, like at the end of the day, if you're the face on TV or you're the voice, it's you. So you may have a producer or someone giving a suggestion or a hint or this or that, or talking about a direction you want to go through, or whatever it may be. I may idolize a certain individual, but I can't be as good of a Kendall Gill as Kendall Gill can be, and he can't be as good of a Sarah Kustok as I can be. So be yourself, be genuine, be authentic. You're not going to be perfect, but make sure that you're comfortable. Everything you say, everything you do, how you show up, that's you. And so those are the things that you need to value most and hold true to you. And I think I learned that through all stops. And whether it was, by mistakes or by looking back and being like, man, like I wish I was going to go this direction with a question and they suggested this. And, I really would like that. I wish I would have did that, or the good and the bad, or trying to be too, whether it's too buttoned up or too loose or what, you need to be comfortable with saying, this is me, this is who I am. And I want viewers to know me for who I am. And so I would say those are the three things that I still to this day think about and that were very relevant and important to continue to learn and work on. And I'm still learning and working on that I still carry with me now.
Yeah, I've read some articles, especially when you first got the gig as the analyst with Ian. You said that lots of young girls out there talk to you and look at you and say, I can do this. And you've been doing this for 8 years now in this job, and we're also in the explosion of women's sports. And you're on CBS Sports Network doing We Need to Talk, and you're breaking down WNBA games, you're talking women's sports. So there's got to be even more, I would imagine, young girls out there who look at you and they can now visualize this more. These are paths for me. What is kind of your go-to advice when you talk to some of these people about just breaking into the business?
I think it's just, and I say this a lot when asking about this, one, you need to, no matter what industry you're getting into, you need to be passionate about it and have a love for it. For the reasons that make you tick, because as you know, and it could be any part of this, whether sports, broadcasting, journalism, covering sport, it is odd hours. It's a different lifestyle. And the sacrifices you make, the understanding of what it takes. I think just knowing that it may look really glamorous or awesome or cool, but the steps to get there, can be muddy and hard and challenging. And there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And I would secondly, and this is my perspective on it, And I love the explosion of women's, like everything's so amazing, the direction it's moving. And I think there's still a lot of steps to go. But it's hard. I say this to young girls. I say this to young boys. I say this talking to classes. It's hard. I don't care if you're a girl, a boy. This is a very, very hard business. So any opportunity you get, the challenges you face, it's going to be being a female in this industry. There may be a high level of scrutiny, but also there may be opportunities, obviously, too, that that afforded me that because I was a female. And so I think there's a balance of just knowing it's hard and like buckle up and get ready and like put on your best understanding of that this is not going to be easy. But if you want to do it, you can find a way to make it work. And I think for the roles I'm doing or the job I'm doing, if you are passionate about whatever, and it may not just be being an analyst, but I think I've seen this even now in the NBA, and whether it's the coaching or the front office or training staffs, the females in different places, I think for young girls to continue to see those faces, see those areas, is such a beautiful thing to me, because that, at the end of the day, that's what's most important to me. Like, it's about, I love what I do. I'm thankful for what I get to do, but it's about the next generation. And when I first got that job, people were asking about the pressures of it or whatever. I'm like, it's a responsibility. Flatline, sure, there's pressure, but you know what? If I'll figure something out. But for me, the responsibility, and for those that have gone before me, and to continue to thank them. Every time I see Doris Burke, I thank her. Every time I see Annie, I thank her. I wouldn't be here without them. And I think all of us have those pieces in those places. But that's what it's about. And I think the last thing is always just preparation. Like, you better be for all things. And you probably would say that to anyone. You can only fake your way through so far if you're not prepared to put in the work and do the work necessary. But it's the challenges, though, at the other side of it, if you get to the other side of it, are all worth it in my perspective.
We'll wrap up with this. Okay, what is the balance of seeing how awesome it is, the way women's basketball, women's college basketball, WNBA popularity, but aren't you also thinking like, man, 20 years ago, I could have gotten a Demon Dogs IL, like why wasn't like, why would,
Who
you were on
knows what
some,
my life would have been like if
yeah, you
we
could
had
have, those DePaul teams you were on were very
never
good.
left Chicago. No. I don't think that way. It's funny though. I'm so grateful to work with true superstars and legends of the game, that probably would have felt that way. But I think I love it. I'm so thrilled for it. The work that these individuals put in. And so you continue to watch it. And I go, like, when I'm walking, and whether it's my nieces and nephews or, friends or kids, the enthusiasm that they have for all these players and how much they see them, they know them, they have their favorites. The list goes on. It's, to me, that's what it's about. I think sports is such a really, really beautiful place of allowing everyone to showcase not only the work and the skill set they have, but also their unique personalities and what that means. And everyone finding someone that they resonate with some way that gives them confidence, that gives them belief, that makes them feel comfortable with being who they are. Because we're all different, especially kids and young girls and boys growing up. Like, it's, I care most about people feeling comfortable with who they are and what that looks like. And I think now, the more that you see that and the more that you're able to identify with that, hopefully it just instills a better level of confidence in everyone.
All right, do you want me to let you off the hook with the Sarah Kustok player comp, or? I was actually thinking, because
were you thinking?
we had talked.
It's funny because there was
who I thought of.
Who did you think of?
Well, I started thinking, because we had been talking about him earlier before we started taping. I thought of Devin Harris.
Oh,
just because.
Yeah, Devin would probably be mad. Devin's probably like, I got too much one-on-one game, and I can go ISO way better. He probably, but Devin, I mean, that would upgrade me. He was also an all-star, but Devin, I would like to say that, but I think he was a little, he probably had a little bit more shake in his handles. Yeah,
I'll say Devin Harris then.
You can say Devin Harris.
So it'll be on me. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I'm trying to think. There was someone through the season. I don't want to keep us here forever, that I was watching, I was talking through, and I was like, if I was comping myself to who I was as a player, that's who I would say it was. But again, now I feel like I'm just going to insult people, but you're going to be like, really? I saw your tape. I saw that grainy highlight. And I could do more than you could do.
Well, we you know what? If we do a part 2 one day,
We'll come back. Yeah, can
we
we
can
add a
circle
little
back.
addendum? Can I?
Not that you can
I
really do
come
a
back?
part
You
2
do
'cause
understand how you're gonna have me thinking about this for the remainder of my
great.
day. I'm gonna be
All right,
texting
well
you like, Kevin, I finally thought of it.
all right, well, when this podcast goes up, as a reminder, everyone should follow us on Instagram. I'll post on Instagram
And then
who
I'll come back with, and I'll put side by sides of the highlights and
there we go.
who I came up with.
All right, well, Sarah Kustok, analyst for the Nets on the Yes Network. You can see her on CBS Sports Network, talking women's hoops. I've got all of us in Chicago are so proud. I'm speaking for myself. I'm just, speaking for everybody here to see where you are at in your career. It's been amazing. And thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us how you broke in.
I appreciate you so very much, and I miss all of you. All the love always to Chicago. Always home.